Hey, sports fans. You've heard about the 8 wonders of the world, which are the world's most spectacular natural wonders and human-built structures. Well, today we're here to talk about the 8 greatest freaks of nature in NFL history. Some of the guys on this list have us wondering if they're even human with their feats of strength, speed, and size that place them among some of the biggest anomalies in all of sports. Well, we've gathered them today for your viewing pleasure. Before we get on with the freak show and display some of these monsters of the gridiron, do me a favor and click that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can stay up to date on this channel. All done? Alright, let's do this. Number 8. J.J. Watt was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school who many thought lacked the physical tools to ever be a force at his position. A hard worker with the type of room for growth you hope for in a prospect, Watt transformed himself into a monster in college and one of the most frightening prospects that the NCAA has ever seen. Once Watt made it to the NFL and electrified the Houston Texans pass rush, we found out just how many of those naysayers were wrong. With strength that's off the charts and speed for his size that's just downright silly. Even sillier when you see him bend the edge like a speed rusher and/or bulldoze elite linemen with relative ease. It didn't take long for JJ to elevate his entire position to new heights. His 69 sacks between 2012 and 2015 put the league on notice in ways no defensive end has ever before. The standard at pass rush for most of his career before injury began to limit his production, JJ showed at his peak there may not have been many better on the defensive side of the ball than him since the league began recording sacks and tackles for losses. A dedicated athlete with an engine that never stops running, this freak of nature showed he could be a force in his own by forcing turnovers and racking up enough sacks to be pretty much a one-man wrecking crew on defenses that would have been middle of the pack at best without him in the lineup. Double teams and the occasional triple teams with a guy to chip him, Watt's contributions don't always show up on the stat sheet, but while we're talking about stats, Watts' 3 Defensive Player of the Year in 4-year stretch and 4 consecutive All-Pros make up one of the freakiest stretches of success for any defensive player ever. Number 7. Herschel Walker was a machine posing as a man with the physique of a Greek god and the motor of someone destined to be great at the game of football. A track superstar and Georgia legend with the speed and strength combo that just wasn't fair to any defense he faced, Walker was a man playing against boys since he was a boy, and by the time he made his way through the University of Georgia into the NFL and became a man, Walker was the definition of elite athlete and physical specimen that you wanted on your side and feared playing against. To put how freakish this dude was in perspective, he was involved in what ended up being the most lopsided trade in NFL history involving an unthinkable 18 players and single-handedly resurrected the Cowboys franchise after they shipped him to the Vikings, allowing them to draft the pieces that fueled their 90s Super Bowl runs. While Walker never lived up to the hype that supported his freakish talent, he was still regarded as one of the baddest men on the football field with the work ethic that still may be the standard in all of sports, doing thousands of push-ups and sit-ups each day and maintaining his freakish physical stature even long beyond his playing days. Number 6. Considering Aaron Donald undersized for the defensive tackle position may be one of the most misleading labels in all of sports. The real question should be, how do you call someone undersized when they've single-handedly redefined the position? The 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and 6-time first-team All-Pro would like a word. Speaking of words, the term unblockable should have a picture of Aaron Donald next to it in the encyclopedia, as offenses try everything under the sun to slow Donald down but could do nothing to slow down this freak's production and impact. The league's leader in pressure since coming into the NFL and head and shoulders above anyone at the defensive tackle position in any stat you dig up, Aaron Donald is a certified freak that will walk into the Hall of Fame as soon as he's done making some of the best offensive schemes and linemen look average. Speaking of average, his average sack total of 12.2 since entering the league is just silly, and any notion that this man is small with his freakish strength and speed is borderline laughable. The ones who aren't laughing are anyone that has to face Donald. He's off to an unprecedented pace for any sackmaster, defensive tackle, defensive end, or outside linebacker. If he were to retire today, he may already be regarded as the best defensive player to ever do it, let alone defensive tackle. Number 5. Dion Sanders may not be the biggest or the strongest, but he was sure the fastest defensive back, if not the fastest player to ever play the game. Able to blanket the fastest and most physically imposing receivers with relative ease, Sanders was so much faster than the competition that he would goad quarterbacks into thinking wide receivers were open by turning down the afterburners only to flip the switch back on at the last second and close large distances in a matter of moments. Sanders' impact on the game of football can't be overstated. He could literally shut down top receivers and erase sides of the field altogether. Primetime was so good that sometimes he looked bored out there, and it was part of the reason why he would let the opposition look open. Imagine being so good at something that you could toy with some of the world's best athletes and still shine. That was Sanders, and when the game kicked off, there was no one that shone brighter than Neon Dion. Number 4. Simply put, Larry Allen may be the strongest man to ever play the game of football, able to bench press over 700 pounds and hit an out-of-this-world 43 reps at 225 pounds. Allen was more monster than man and may be the all-time standard at the tackle position. Larry wasn't just an unbelievably strong person pushing people around either. He had some of the most nimble feet in the game and a speed that a person simply shouldn't have for a person as massive as he was. If you need to see one play of how freakish he is, just look up Larry Allen chases down linebacker and watch him sprint past players and moving faster than a man his size may have ever moved. This clip alone is a testament to his freakishness and also just how scary this guy must have been to play against. Number 3. When they make a verb out of your name, that's gotta mean something, right? How about when you're so scary they literally call you the Freak? The moment Randy Moss stepped onto the field, there may not have been a more gifted receiver or player for that matter in the National Football League. Standing at 6'4" and able to jump out of the stadium with Olympian speed, Randy Moss may be the scariest receiver to ever play the game of football. In his prime, the only person who could stop Randy Moss was Randy Moss. The best defensive backs couldn't cover him, and he was so confident in this fact that a simple raise of his hand, covered or not, meant to throw him the ball because he felt open or would get open. Let's be real, Randy was never covered, and if you ask Randy himself, he would tell you the same thing. Randy mossed more people than anyone before him and anyone since, and had his career not been derailed with quarterback issues and motivation issues, he may have rewrote the record books and erased the GOAT himself, Jerry Rice. Randy was as gifted as they come, and even though he's not the only wide receiver on this list of freaks, he was certainly the best. His route running along with all of his hands were also things of legend, even though he was most remembered for his speed. For those that question whether Randy deserves to be in the GOAT conversation, look at what he did in the one season he was fortunate enough to have a top-tier quarterback. His 23 touchdowns in a season are an NFL record and leaves us wondering what would have happened if he played his entire career with Tom Brady. A frightening thought to say the least. We've all seen a unicorn in our life, and his name is Randy. Number 2. If defensive backs had nightmares, they'd be 6'5", 237, and wear the Honolulu blue, white, and silver of the Detroit Lions. Calvin's roar came on the field as the quiet super freak would rather let his play do the talking by running past and jumping over anyone who tried to cover him throughout his career. A silent killer capable of blowing a game open with his 4.38 wheels and by skying over even the tallest and most gifted defensive backs with his 42.5-inch vertical. A phenom if there truly was one, as Calvin wasn't just tall, he was also strong enough to shed tackles with that ball in his hands, with great hands and a Boeing 747-like wingspan to boot. Unfortunately for Calvin, a bad situation was the only thing that could stop Megatron from producing mega numbers on the football field. Whether or not Calvin Johnson was the best receiver is up for debate, but when asked if you could create a receiver in a lab, most answers would probably have Calvin Johnson as their solution. Number 1. Raider faithful, you might want to turn away. This entry on our list is not only the biggest freak to ever stop on the gridiron, he may be the biggest freak to ever play in any sport ever. The legend of Bo may not even tell the tale of what Bo Jackson truly was. A 230-pound bullet faster than every single player on the field by a long shot. Incredible power with the quickness of a guy half his size. One thing that defenses did know about Bo was that Bo knew how to beat you in ways that you couldn't game plan for. Just ask anyone chasing down Bo in his rumored 4.13 second 40-yard dash, or that tried to call him out and or tackle him one-on-one, Brian Bosworth. If injuries didn't rob him of his prime, the question of who may be the best running back to ever play may never have to be answered like Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky, but as quickly as the legend of Bo formed, his career came to a screeching halt. Luckily for us, Bo has highlights and wasn't a myth. A freak of freaks taken down by a freak accident. There are generational talents and talents that will be talked about for generations, but Bo Jackson and his legendary physical ability and physique may go down as the biggest that ever was, and will likely be regarded as the best athlete in any team sport to ever play any game, and also one of the biggest sports tragedies all in one. Alright sports fans, that does it for our time on the biggest freaks to ever play the game. Let us know by dropping us a comment and letting us know how we did so we could do better next time. As always, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that button and stay up to date on the latest and greatest from this channel. Until next time.